On your mark, Sega fans, it's Dan, the Mega Driver of the Sega guys, here on the starting grid, ready to take a look at a rather unique racing franchise. Sonic Racing Crossworlds launches worldwide in September 2025 in the latest of a surprisingly long line of Sonic racing games. So far, the new game looks fantastic and features some crossover characters from other Sega franchises and a few others that aren't Sega related but will appeal to the kiddos. So with Sonic Racing Crossworlds bursting onto the scene soon on all platforms, it's only right that we look back on the Blue Blur's previous racing titles and rank them from worst to best. Which titles were Supersonic Racing and which were best left back in time? Let's take a look. The games in this list are console and PC titles only, so the various Japan-only Sonic Cafe mobile phone oddities are not included. On that note, we're going to start with two games that didn't make the cut. Sonic Rivals and its sequel, Sonic Rivals 2, are described as action racing games. These oddball releases differ from every other racing entry in this list in that they're side-on 2D platform games with a racing element. I didn't consider these racing games because, well, they're just basically an expansion of what Sonic 2 and Sonic 3's competition modes did. There's no accelerator button, they play like platform games rather than racers, and they even feature boss battles and one-on-one combat stages. There's plenty of different approaches to what a Sonic racing game could be in this list, but even given the weird and wonderful stuff that's out there, Rivals and Rivals 2 just do not fit the bill. And this Twitter poll that I ran seems to agree. Besides, they're not good games, racer, platformer or otherwise, so it's best that we pretend that they just don't exist. With those ruled out on a technicality, let's move on.
Sonic Free Riders.
Sonic Free Riders was the third and final entry to the Sonic Riders series. This Xbox 360 exclusive title utilised the Kinect accessory to allow players to use their whole body to control the game. Like other entries in the series, it centres around Sonic riding a hoverboard of sorts in a futuristic setting, battling against a trio of anthropomorphic birds called the Babylon Rogues, as well as Dr. Robotnik. There's plenty of characters, courses, modes and customization options. Why is it last on this list? Well, given that it requires Kinect, you may have already guessed. For the most part, the game is borderline unplayable. Xbox's motion controller always had issues with responsiveness and accuracy, and this game is, in my opinion, one of the worst. Even if you do get the controller set up properly, you'll still find yourself flailing around to no avail in most cases, and looking like an absolute tit while you do it. Case in point. The Riders games definitely had their fans before this came out, but the fact that this game killed that sub-franchise tells you everything that you need to know. Coming ahead of the unplayable Sonic Free Riders is the original Sonic Drift, a Japan-only release on the Sega Game Gear. Making a Sonic racing game on the Sega Mega Drive would have inevitably created Mario Kart comparisons, so Sega made it for the 8-bit portable instead. The game plays very much like a standard circuit racer from the 80s and 90s. If you've played something like GP Rider, Outrun or Super Monaco Grand Prix on the Game Gear, you may know what to expect, though I think Drift is worse than all of those games. The tracks are all based on the first Sonic game on the Mega Drive, but the track design is fairly bland. Handling is tricky, especially if you're playing as Sonic, and the music really isn't great. There's only 4 characters and the game just feels like it was cobbled together in just a few months. It's not terrible, but neither is it very good. It's just distinctly average. You can get some enjoyment out of it, but ultimately you can see why it was never allowed to leave Japan. Take Sonic Drift 1, increase the number of player characters, add some variety to the courses as well as power-ups and unique character abilities, and you get Sonic Drift 2, released in the West as Sonic Drift Racing. At first, you may think that the gameplay is barely removed from the first game, but it is actually improved, while the great course variety, including things like point-to-point races, serves to make the game much more interesting. Critics lump this game in with the first one, but I actually think this is much better than the first attempt at a Sonic racer. Once you get used to the control quirks, the rival behaviour and the track designs, you can feel that it is a much more enjoyable game than the first Sonic Drift. It's still not great though. The character abilities can be really annoying, as can many of the new track obstacles, not helped by some of the absolute worst rubber banding I have ever seen in any racing game. There's entertainment here if you keep your expectations in check. Sonic Riders Zero Gravity was the first sequel to Sonic Riders released on the Wii and PS2 only. Here I'm playing Nintendo's Waggle Box, but thankfully it lets you use a GameCube controller. Sonic Riders Zero Gravity makes sweeping changes to the original Riders. Everything from story and tracks to the entire control system has been overhauled. It's almost like a reboot. Opinions are split on this one. Personally, I nearly rated it lower than Sonic Drift 2. The races are chaotic, the new gravity moves feel janky, and if you're hoping that the tutorial will help you through the mechanics, well, you're out of luck, with neither the boost nor the drift working as you might expect, and those mechanics alone really break the flow of the game for me. Still, once you acclimatise to it, there's a solid experience here, and as I say, it does have its fans. There's plenty of content in the races, courses, and an even more bonkers story mode. The music is great, and visually it looks great for the era. It's just a shame that the gameplay lets it down, in my opinion. It's time to hit you with Sonic Speed. Some may scoff at placing the original Sonic Riders above its Zero Gravity sequel, but I feel that the original is a better all-round game, albeit still an incredibly flawed one. I am also not fond of putting boarding games against other races. Extreme sports have their own genre. You wouldn't class SSX, for example, in the same category as, say, Mario Kart or Gran Turismo, would you? Only an insane person would do that. In this case, Riders gets by on the fact that the boards are powered, so they have more in common with, say, dirt bikes than they do with snowboards or skateboards. The courses are also circuits rather than just simple downhill tracks. Anyway, the game itself is chock full of content, including a decently sized story mode and plenty of tracks and races. It also has a more elegant control system than either of its sequels, with things like the drift system being more akin to the sort of mechanic that you'd see in a standard car racer. However, it's still a chaotic and scrappy affair at times, with a lot of things that just simply don't work. For example, the slipstream mechanic is a cool idea, but it's really inconsistent, just like the game itself. Music and visual design are top notch though, and the game will keep your interest on those elements alone.
Sonic and Sega AllStars Racing!
Okay, we're in the end game now, and if you want a classic Sega racing title in the home, you have to call the geniuses at Sumo Digital. After knocking it out of the park with ports of AM2's Outrun, they were tasked to give Sonic and Friends a kart racer to be proud of, and with Sonic and Sega AllStars Racing, they did just that. Expanding the roster beyond Sonic to classic Sega characters was a genius idea, and the game becomes a celebration of not just Sonic, but Sega too. The game plays solidly, and true to Sumo's form, there's a raft of extra content to play through, from Grand Prix to challenges that harken back to Outrun 2006 Coast to Coast modes or Crazy Taxi's Crazy Box. Even the Sega Miles are lifted straight out of Outrun 2006. Depending on your platform, there's a bunch of non-Sega characters too, such as Banjo-Kazooie as shown here in the Xbox version. Worth noting, there are around 10 different versions of this game. From console to handheld to PC, from arcade to phone, your experience will vary wildly, but the Xbox 360 and PC versions are the ones that I recommend. Released in 2019, the Sega All-Stars were jettisoned for a Sonic-focused racing title. Team Sonic Racing was actually the brainchild of Takashi Iizuka, who wanted a game that he could enjoy with his kids. The core mechanic in this title is team play. Characters are grouped up into trios, and as you play through the main game modes, you'll help each other out through the courses by sharing items and power-ups and blazing a path for your teammates to follow. It works really well, and there's a tremendous amount of polish. If you have a young family to play it with, it absolutely nails what it sets out to do. What keeps it from the top is that it feels a little bit too safe, a little bit too unremarkable. It really is Sonic's most polished racing adventure so far. But without the Sega AllStars, without the higher level skill based play in those titles, without the transform mode, the team mechanic just isn't enough to elevate it above third place. But still, walking away with the bronze medal in this case is still a huge endorsement on this game, and it's highly recommended, especially to those who have friends and family who enjoy the blue blur. At number 2 we have Sonic R. No wait, listen, I'm not insane. I'm not blinded by nostalgia, at least not entirely. This game is actually really good. Sonic R offers something completely unlike any other racer ever made. Many of the characters race on foot, which is what you'd expect, right? Why would Sonic even need a car? The game gets stick for its controls, but they're actually really intuitive and responsive, with the shoulder buttons working like Wipeout style air brakes, albeit with each one mapped to a character's leg when they're running on foot. And the on foot characters don't play like platformers, instead they do place like they're in a racing game, which is really cool and unique. What also sets this game apart is how open the tracks are. Each circuit is cleverly designed with multiple routes and secrets. Collecting all 5 medals from a track and finishing third allows you to challenge a secret character. Collecting all the Chaos Emeralds and finishing first ultimately lets you unlock Super Sonic. The game looks absolutely stunning on Saturn, especially the final translucent Radiant Emerald track. The soundtrack too, what more do I have to say, it is utterly iconic. Played with a 3D controller, this is a unique and phenomenal game. People enjoy clowning it because it's so different and unorthodox, but unlike the Riders games, this actually works and works well. The Saturn version is, in my opinion, the best way to play this game still. However, many swear by the PC, GameCube and PS2 versions, which all offer some enhancements, even if the gameplay feels a little off to me. They're all fine, but the Saturn version, as I said, with a 3D controller, is absolutely magical. If there's one criticism I have for this game, it's that there just isn't enough of it. But aside from that, it's my second favourite Sonic racing game of all time, and one that I will always go back to.
Sonic and AllStars Racing transform.
Speaking of magical, they don't get any better than this. Sonic and Sega AllStars Racing Transformed is comfortably the best Sonic racing game there ever was. Take the Sonic and Sega AllStars concept and dial it up to 11. Add water and air racing elements by including the transformation mechanic, and you have one of the greatest and purest celebrations of Sega's history ever. The game plays exquisitely. The vehicles in car form carry over the outrun drifting DNA from the previous game, while the transformed sections also play excellently and allow for some absolutely incredible set pieces. The tracks are pure fan service that transform themselves during races, from the destruction of the Panzer Dragoon track to the devastating air battle in Skies of Arcadia. Races feel fresh and exciting the whole way through. All modes can be played via split screen multiplayer, which itself is remarkable, with 4 players on most consoles and up to 5 on the Nintendo Wii U playing locally. Recently I've been playing this with my wife and my youngest child, and both of them asked to play this game rather than the other way around. That is how good it is. Couple this with a stellar soundtrack, again by Richard Jacques, and it's damn near perfect. The biggest drawback is that it does require a higher skill level than something like Mario Kart. There's a lot more going on, hence why Sonic Team Racing exists to simplify the formula. However, that difficulty is also its greatest asset. This isn't just a Mario Kart clone in Sega clothes. This is a celebration of Sega's races, a nostalgic overdose of oft-forgotten franchises, an experience wrapped up in the warm blue glow of Sega's legacy. And that applies to the difficulty too. Sega racing veterans will feel right at home here, and that is what distinguishes this game from other kart races. It is Sega racing perfection personified, and that is why it is not just the best Sonic racer ever, but in my opinion rivals Mario Kart 8 for the greatest mascot racing game there ever was and there ever has been. Anyway, those are my thoughts on the best Sonic racing games. What are yours? Let us know in the comments below or on the Sega Guys Discord. If you've enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and a subscribe, as that really helps the channel. And until next time, we will see you on the Sega side.